friends, my name is Marina and this is Rapunzel Fiber Arts. In one of my recent videos, we lock washed this Polwarth fleece. So this is a clean lock that I carefully washed to maintain lock structure. If you're interested in how I did that, I will link the video. It's just how to lock wash fleece. So I took these locks and I washed them, and now I have a whole basket full of dry, clean locks that need to be processed. And so what I decided to do, because these have a pretty long staple length, or length of this piece of fiber, it's about 4 inches, I'd say. Because it's a pretty long staple length, this would do really well combed, which is what I'm planning on doing. So I have my set of Valkyrie combs. I think these are fines. I'm not positive. I think that they're fine though. They're 2-pitch combs. So each of these rows of tines is called a pitch. So they're 2-pitch combs. I have 2 of them. And I have a little stand that they sit on right here. So what I'm going to do is show you how I comb locks to go from something like this to something like this, which is some beautiful pulled roving. You can see how nice and airy that is and how beautiful it's going to be once it's spun. So I'm going to change the angle of the camera so you can see what I do with my hands. And I'm going to show you exactly how I comb locks like this.
All right, friends, so here I am taking our locks and loading the combs. This is some locks that we washed in an earlier video to maintain lock structure, and I am just putting the butt ends on the comb with the tip end, which is a little bit sun bleach, sticking out, but that's my personal preference and not the way you have to do it. So I repeat this process until the comb is full. You don't actually fill it to the top. You only put a couple layers of locks in, just this much. And then I'm going to take some combing milk, which I got from my friend's shop, which is Spotted Sheep Studio. I will link it down below. And that's just to reduce static in the wool. So you can also use a spray bottle of water or put a humidifier underneath where you're combing, and that'll make it a little bit less staticky and easy to work with. So I just put a full dropper onto my wool and massaged it in a little bit, and then I'm going to take the other comb and get started combing. So the way that you comb is you catch the tips of the locks with the tines of the comb in your hand. You can either do this with a comb in each hand or with a stand, the way that I'm using. And I think I mentioned earlier, these are my Valkyrie fine combs. And I am just repeating the process of pulling the locks using those comb tines and transferring the wool from the stationary comb to the comb in my hand. It's really important when you're handling combs to be very safe. They are sharp, they are pointy, they can cause some serious damage. And it's also a good idea to have a updated tetanus shot because wool can be dirty, and even if it's washed, there can still be germs on it, and you don't want a bad infection from a barnyard animal. So I have moved the wool from one lock to the other, and now I am just repeating the process, lashing it back on to the other wool comb, the stationary one. And I am just going to repeat that process, moving the wool from one side to the other until the fiber is nice and separated and ready to be spun. So I think I do 4 passes. So from the stationary to the moving comb, back to the stationary comb, back to the moving comb, back to the stationary comb. And that's a total of 4 passes back and forth, making making a really nicely prepared fiber. There's the waist that I have from that batch of combing, and then I'm going to move those locks back onto the comb in my hand just by catching the tips of those locks and pulling. And you can see the wool slowly moving from the stationary comb to the comb in my hand. Something else that I do, which you can see kind of as I finish moving the wool from one comb to the other, is I will start incorporating a little bit of twist with my free hand into the tips of those locks, and then catching that little bit of twist with the lock or with the comb, and that helps pull the longer fibers that might be a little bit stuck from one comb to the other. So here I go doing that. You see I just do a little twist and then catch that twist with the comb and then pull the fiber off of the stationary comb onto the comb in my hand. And then I've got some waste, which I'm going to put into a pile on the side. And this stuff is already pretty ready, but I'm gonna do one more pass and put it back on the stationary comb, and then I will be able to pull that off into a pulled top. That's the preparation when you've combed something and then pull it into a long continuous piece. Sometimes people call this roving, but roving is carded fibers, not combed. So the proper name for this is top, T-O-P. You can see a little bit of static in that fiber. It's wanting to come up at the end there, but the combing milk has it under control, so it's not so bad that I am getting tangled.
All right, friends, so this is what we have combed. It is ready to be pulled off the comb, and this is all the waste we had, which is not that much. I'll weigh these after I'm done combing, and we will get a % of waste, and that'll hopefully give you a sense for how much waste there is for this project. It's not a ton. I think it's probably 10, maybe 15%. All right, so we'll pull this off. I've got my diz right here with a threader for it, and I will show you how I pull this off using a diz.
So here I go putting my threader through my diz. A diz is just a hard piece of material, either plastic or wood, or in this case stone, with a hole through it. And you use a diz to pull this chunk of fiber which is on the comb, and you pull it into a long continuous piece by pushing up and then pulling and kind of drafting those fibers apart. And you can see I'm making a pretty thin long piece of fiber. So it's just elongated into a pulled top. This diz was made for me by my boyfriend. He just put a hole in a small flat rock he found, and I think he just used some kind of bit on a screwdriver to make it, and I love it. And then as I finish getting all of this fiber off, I am going to wrap it up into a little nest around my hand like this, and then I will have a little nest of fiber.
All right, friends, so this is what we've made. Well, I've made 2, but this is what we made together. And I weighed this as well as the combing waste, and I determined that we have about 9% combing waste, which is not bad at all, especially Since this isn't really dirty, I see one piece of VM in this whole fluff, I can still use this. I'm going to card this, or maybe comb it again, and it'll just be the shorter bits that didn't quite make the cut of the really, really nice stuff that came off of the combs. So when you comb, in my video, I'm sure you saw, I'm taking from the tips. And so sometimes fibers that aren't as long as all the rest of the locks, but are still long and usable, will be discarded because they're not as long as the stuff that's in this. But it's still perfectly usable. So I can either recomb it and just have some shorter staple length combed top, or I can hand card it or drum card it, probably hand card it because I want to be pretty gentle with this as it's a fine wool, and I don't want, sometimes when you card a fine wool, you create neps by breaking the wool and then it bunches back on itself, and that creates a nep in the fiber. That's one of the ways neps can happen. So I'm really happy. We have a really, really nice product to spin here. This is going to spin like butter, especially since I put that combing milk in it. And then that just washes out when you wash the yarn after it's skeined up. But I think this is going to turn out absolutely lovely. I'm going to spin up a sample before I comb up a whole bunch. But I'm really happy with this. I think it's going to be absolutely gorgeous. And I have 5 more colors of this Polwarth. Natural colors, not dyed. This is called silver. It's a little bit brownish, but I think I know what they're talking about when they call it silver. So I still have to wash the rest of the colors. They're still raw fleece. But I'm really happy. I think we've done good today. All right.
All right, friends. So here I have my nest, and I'm just pulling one end out so that I can start spinning from it. But then I realized that I hadn't threaded my wheel yet, so I have to put the leader thread through the threaders on my wheel so that it properly feeds in as I spin. And then I am going to get started spinning by opening up this leader thread, passing some of the fiber through it, and then starting to incorporate some twist. I found this overall to be a very pleasant spin. The fibers are very well prepped. The combing milk made drafting very smooth and easy. The one thing that I had trouble with was keeping my hands far enough apart. The staple length on this fiber I've already talked about was pretty long, about 4 inches, maybe 5 in areas. And when you're spinning a fine wool, you're used to like a 3-inch staple length. So your hands are pretty close together. So I think my hands were feeling the soft fiber and expecting to need to be pretty close together. And so I had to actively work to keep my hands a little bit further apart than that. Like I said, the combing milk also made drafting really nice and easy, which I appreciated. And I think this is going to make a really nice finished yarn. The only thing I think I need to kind of improve as I keep working on this yarn is incorporating some more twist into it. It's holding together, but it could use a little bit more spin twist in it, just so it's a little bit more of a durable yarn that holds together well. I really would hate for this to start pilling and wear very quickly. I would like it to last and become kind of an heirloom project. So So I think I need to incorporate a little bit more twist into this yarn. But other than that, I am very, very happy with the result. It's absolutely beautiful, as I'm sure you can see. And it was a pleasure to spin, which is always lovely. So I'm definitely going to enjoy this project.
All right, friends, we spun up a sample. This isn't even the entire little nest of fiber that I made. This is maybe half of it. And it spun up super fine like a dream. Ignore this part. It's just the fiber end. It's super duper fine. Almost thread fine. It's beautiful. It's gonna make a really nice poofy, cozy 2 or 3 ply. And I'm thinking I'm gonna take all 6 colorways that I have and either probably do a stripy lace shawl. That's my hope. It'll depend on how the fiber works up. I don't think I put enough twist into this yarn. It holds together fine, but I think it needs a little bit more twist so that it holds up and is more durable. But the color is absolutely gorgeous. I think in real life it's a little bit more pewter than silver, but that's fine. I'm not gonna nitpick their color name choice. Yeah, I've got 3/4 of a pound raw of each of 6 colors. My guild bought into a big order from Australia, I think. I'll try to get the name and put a link down below if you're interested in really, really nice Polwarth fleece, because it's really, really nice Polwarth fleece. I think it was kind of expensive, like $25 a pound or something, but I think that included shipping. So take a look if you're interested in fleece like this, and I hope you liked the combing and spinning process day that we did. I hope that you have a fantastic day. Get some crafting in if you can, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye, friends.